Hello, welcome back to my channel. And today I scheduled this live video to talk to you about some topics. And I have some guests I'm expecting, and please, I beg you, just have patience for at least 1 or 2 minutes so they can join us. Okay, the live video will start in exactly 2 minutes. Thank you. Everyone, welcome. I can see some people are already watching. Thank you very much for staying with me, even though I'm having some technical problems. And if you can hear me, please can you indicate in the chat? Can you hear me? Can somebody say yes or no? Can you hear me? Okay, while I'm waiting for somebody to reply, we have to go ahead, okay? And actually, my guests are supposed to join me, but they are not here. One of my guests, Nicole, had a family emergency. That's why she couldn't join us today. And maybe next time she'll be here with us. Okay. And as you know, family is very important. It's the most important thing. So if anybody is not feeling too well in the family, every other thing goes to second base. Okay, so I want to welcome you to my channel today. As you can see on the banner of the live stream, the title today is we want to ask why some women fight other women for their men. And is it really worth it? When somebody says fight for your marriage, does it literally means fighting people, beating people because of your marriage? Is any man worth it that you have to really, excuse me, that you have to really go crazy and fight people because of your marriage? And this topic really came to me last year. I heard some Nigerian news and I watched some Nigerian bloggers. They talked about a young lady who went to work in another state, and she didn't have accommodation. Her boss invited her to live in his family house because he lived in that state. And that was not actually the house he was living with his wife. That's not the house he was living with his family, his wife and children. That was his father's house where his parents live. And at some point, something led to the other. His wife suspected that he was having an affair with that lady who went to work in that state, and actually went to that house where her parents-in-law were living to fight the young lady and ended up pouring hot water on her. So, and I've always had it in mind to talk about these issues, but this episode really made me hasten it up. So today, if you're on the chat, if you're watching, please indicate in the chats. What do you think about women who fight other women for their men? And whatever I discuss on this channel, I want to first of all discuss it from the point of view of a Christian. And one thing I know is that in Africa, culture and religion plays a big role in how people see things and in how people do things. And it also play a big part in people's mentality. And sometimes when you go to some churches like this and you see people talking to women, preaching to women, talking about the strange women. And while I was growing up in Nigeria, when I was younger in Nigeria, I never really loved the preaching of talking about strange women here, strange women there. I wonder who these strange women are. And as you can see, nobody ever talked about the strange men. And they made it look like fighting other women away from your husband, warding other women away from your husband was supposed to be a full-time job. Okay, that was how I perceived it to be, because as a young girl going to conferences, going to churches, people, or maybe listening to programs talking about young women as if people are there waiting for your husband to pounce on him. One thing I know is that a grown man does what he wants to do. A man cannot be stolen. That is what I think. A man cannot be stolen. A human being cannot be stolen. And you hear mostly about husband snatchers more than wife snatchers, as if somebody can just wake up one day and snatch your husband. And sometimes the angle they bring into it is the angle of, excuse me, hold on a bit, please. The angle they bring into it is the angle of maybe somebody could use voodoo, juju, and snatch your husband. And sometimes when people leave the issue and start talking about the how somebody maybe manipulated a man through voodoo, through juju, and I'm wondering, for me, bringing that angle is just like not letting people take responsibility for their actions, because the moment you catch them, the excuse is that somebody used voodoo on them to manipulate them into infidelity. So, and this has made a lot of women crazy, as if what we are in this world to do, our ultimate goal in this world, it's as if is to hold on to our men. And personally, I think this is really very wrong, because if you get to a point where somebody drives you so crazy that you have to throw caution to the winds, go fight another woman, beat up another woman, how many women are you going to fight against? If your husband has decided to be a community P, he is the only person who made a commitment to you. If he married you, he is the only person who made a commitment to you. And one thing is that some of these women, after fighting the women outside, they still go home and marry and continue marrying those men. And some of them, you fight one woman, you fight another woman, as if your full-time job is to fight women, warning people away from your husband. Look, no man deserves it. No man is worth it. Even the man who is worth it will not put you in a position where you have to go and quarrel and fight other women because of him. He will not. Other women should, I'm not saying be envious of you, should admire the way your man is taking care of you. He's supposed to make other people envious of you, not making you envious of um, other women. So, Pamela here said, never fight a woman. Let me see if I can put this on the screen. Okay. Never fight a woman for your man. Is the man you will handle firstly. Check yourself and up your game. Check if it's your fault. Intimacy, cooking, your dressing, etc. If it's your fault, fix it after that discussion and prayer. Never fight the other woman. It's a total waste of time. Thank you, Pamela. Hold on a bit. I have to remove this thing from the screen because it's taking up the whole screen. So, Pamela, I need also to take you. You made a good point there, but one thing I know is that there is no woman, there is no man who can be everything at the same time. Okay. Now you mentioned something about cooking. Cooking is, I know so many men who can cook. I know so many men who cook better than their wives. I know so many women who are very good cooks, but because they are really very busy with work, with children, they might not be able to cook as at when due. There are so many things a woman can contribute to her marriage. And even if one aspect is lacking, that's no reason for a man to look outside. Even when we talk about intimacy, yeah, to a certain extent, but there are times when no matter how much you want to, you can never ever give it that moment. Sometimes when you're sick, sometimes when you are tired, sometimes when you are hurting about something, sometimes when maybe you just put to bed, maybe you have a sick child, maybe you have something worrying you. Okay. And that's why I think marriage involves a lot of things and not just one part. Okay. Even in the aspect of dress, let me tell you something. Before a man marries you, he already knows how you dress. Okay. He already knows your style, even though people change along the way. But one thing is that if there's a problem in the marriage, the most important thing is for you people to try to sort it out, work on it, be willing to meet each other halfway. Because sometimes I'm really scared. I'm so scared, even as a married woman, for somebody to say, if you don't satisfy him in this, if you don't satisfy him in that, personally, it puts a lot of pressure on me because there are sometimes you can never ever satisfy completely one human being. And sometimes you satisfy in this area, another demand comes. You satisfy in that area, another demand comes. Okay. So one thing people should consider first before marrying each other is love, companionship. And when you marry somebody, your lives become one. And if marriage seems like a full-time job, sometimes it takes your mind away from every other thing. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that people should not try to improve. Okay. Because I'm a firm believer in constant learning, constant improvement. Okay. Because nobody knows it all. So long as you are alive, no matter how long you have lived, no matter whatever it is you think you know, there is always room for improvement. But what we're talking about here is this. Okay. If personally, if I have to come to a point where I have to go and start warning other women to leave my husband alone, then I don't have a marriage anymore. I do not have a marriage anymore. Personally, I wouldn't even give another woman the satisfaction. I wouldn't even give another woman the satisfaction of thinking that she has a hold on my husband. Okay. If you already have a hold on that man, I would dash you the man. Okay. So I know, look, this is not a joke. I know it's not easy. Marriage is a serious issue. But if I have to really, 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 really get crazy to the point that I have to go and warn another woman about my husband, the marriage is over. you know. So, and sometimes they preach to women about how a wise woman builds her home. And one thing about everything about the Bible, I believe the Bible in its totality. But what I don't believe is some people's interpretation of some certain parts of the Bible. Okay. You cannot build with somebody who doesn't want to build with you. Even in mathematics, plus plus minus is minus. Okay. Because marriage, it takes two people to build it. No matter how much you try and the other person is hell-bent on destroying, that house will never stand. And if it comes to a time, a place where your mental health is so affected, you get to a point where you start fighting people to leave your man alone. Look, do something, seek for counseling, try all your best to save that marriage. But if it comes to a point where you are really going crazy because of what, reevaluate your life. I can see some comments coming in. Let me click this. Okay, here. Okay, I know. Good evening, sir. Sir Sidney said, "I'm glad you're looking at it as a Christian. A Christian's greatest weapon is prayer. It has worked for many and should work for all Christians." Yeah, yeah, I agree with this. I agree with this. But one thing is, when they tell us pray for your marriage, pray for your marriage, look, I don't know, maybe I don't have patience or whatever. I believe in praying for my marriage. I pray for my marriage. I pray for my husband. I bless his job. I bless his going out and his coming in. Everything around him, most especially his relationship with God. That is for me, that is as Christians, that is our greatest possessions in this life. But when instead of us holding hands to pray for issues, okay, and my most consistent prayer point is him wandering about. At some point, I have to channel my energy to something else. Because one thing I know is that we as a team are supposed to team together and fight the forces that are coming from outside of us. That is when somebody says, fight for your marriage, pray for your marriage. That is the part I hold dearly. But when the person who is supposed to be a team with me starts fighting against me, first of all, I will put you in the hands of God. But one thing I know is that prayer is not, doesn't mean lack of action. Because as a human being, there's a level of negativity that at some point I cannot absorb. Personally, I know my mental state. I know how emotional I can be. I know how things get to me. If it gets to a point where the one who is supposed to be by my side love me, protect me, and we love each other and grow in faith, grow in love and everything, and you become my greatest issue as a human being, okay? At some point, I have to make a decision because I'm a human being. It's only Jesus who can save the world. And sometimes when you pray for someone and the person starts all, okay, look at her here.
Did I freeze your screen?
Hello?
Hi, can you hear me? Checking that my hair is not a mess.
Ezzy, you're on screen. We are seeing you.
Yes, I know you're seeing me.
So what I'm saying is this. So when it comes to a point where the person that is supposed to hold my hand and pray against the forces that are coming from outside, you become the person who is my biggest issue. I have to make a decision as a human being. Okay. And there's another comment here. Let's see. Here it says, no man is worth, Iyanu Lawal, she said, no man is worth fighting for. If there is anyone to fight, is the man, because he made himself, I think that's what she means to say, is that he made himself available. Exactly. One thing I know about infidelity is that it's one thing to fall into sexual sin as a single person, is another thing to fall into sexual sin. Izzy, can you hear me?
I can, but I'm struggling with the screen. I'll
Is
be back.
another thing to fall into sexual sin as a married person. Okay, especially from the point of view as a Christian. Can you hear me, Ezinne?
I can hear you very well.
Okay. So from that point of view, as a married man or as a married woman, infidelity is planned. It's not something you just do anyhow because you know you're married. You're going to plan it, you're going to hide, you're going to try different ways. And while you were at the point of planning it, you did not remember you were a married man. Or maybe the Spirit of God in you. Look, the Spirit of God talks constantly. And somebody told me this. He said, the Spirit of God in you is like, when you don't fasten your seatbelt and it starts beeping, ping, 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 ping. If you listen to that beep and cross your seatbelt, it will stop. But if you do not cross your seatbelt, at some point, the beep will stop. It's like the conscience. The conscience will warn you. The Spirit of God will warn you. And since the Spirit of God is not invasive, if you don't listen, it's okay. You already decided on what you want to do. Okay. So going, taking out all the time in the world, planning it out with someone else. And then later you come back and say, she tempted him. Look, let me tell you something. We are not animals, we are human beings. As a woman, when I see a man, even before a man opens his mouth, there are some body languages you will see a man around you, and you would recognize that this one is looking for something else. This one is looking for more. And if I notice it, I know this is mostly harder for men, especially good men who
Why
don't
is it
know
harder for
God.
men?
Huh?
Why is it harder for men?
No, let me tell you something. There are men who, because they recognize their strength
Mm-hmm.
and they see women as the weaker vessel,
Mm-hmm.
and then they try to overcompensate by being extra gentle. Okay. And they
Mm.
try maybe gently, whichever. Look, when some women are coming on you, they come aggressively, and you try gently to ward them off, no matter how much you try. But let me tell you something, you have to choose whether I am going to please this woman,
Mm.
whether I am going to continue trying not to hurt her feelings or saving my marriage, because my family comes first. And I, as a woman, it's kind of offends me when a man knows I'm married and you start making some even non-verbal advances. I'm going to call you out on it. I'm going to tell you how offensive it is for me that I'm a married woman and you're giving me some body language kind of advances. Before you even open your mouth, I'm going to stop it right there. And there's one thing I heard when Pastor Bimbo was alive, Bimbo Dukoya. I read one of her books. She said, when somebody starts making advances at you, talk to your partner. Okay, because that is
Mm.
going to even stop you from yourself. It's going to save you from yourself. Before you give in, you already know your partner knows it. Even though, even though, if it's somebody I can handle and I know my husband is hot tempered, he might kill somebody. If I don't tell him, I'm going to tell somebody close to him. And let me tell you something, when somebody makes that, I'm a grown woman, when somebody starts making advances at me, is it on me or at me? Anyway, I can't
At
remember
me.
anymore. At me. Thank you. That's why I want you here. So,
To correct your English.
sometimes when you're talking live like this,
Mm.
sometimes you second guess yourself. But anyway, I know I can handle anybody. I'm not going to
Yes.
fight it, but I'm going to tell you, oh, stop that nonsense. Okay. So I don't think it's okay to make excuses for anybody, woman, man. Infidelity is not something you fall into. You plan it out. So, Ezzy, since you're here, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Then later in private, you're going to explain to me why you
Yeah.
are late.
See, setting up this camera alone took me 30 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, like setting up the whole light thing, and then all of a sudden I realized that the cord for the light was missing. It
Mm-hmm.
was there, like where I keep it, but my daughter's that's true. Let me put my phone on do not disturb, by the way.
No, don't worry.
No, let me put my
Don't
phone
worry.
on do not
Just go
disturb so
ahead.
that
Mm.
uh-huh. So it was setting up. Oh. Anyway, guys, I'm sorry for being late. I hope my hair is not a mess. I tried my best to look good for you guys
You're looking
and be
good.
on brand. Anyway, so there are a lot of nuances to this thing. When you said talk to your partner about it, and I'm thinking, what if they don't have a relationship? What if they don't talk to each other like normally? Do you understand? The only
Exactly.
conversation they have is maybe money for food, or
Mm-hmm.
the kids' school, not even the kids' school work, but like maybe school fees or things that they need in school. That's the basic conversation. That they have basic conversation as a couple. So how would you even start talking to your partner about it? Then the
Yeah.
other one I also thought of was when he said, let me think about it. Thinking of all the nuances in the things that you had just said. Um, it will come back. But anyway, so there has to be, yes, for a woman who is not receiving attention from her spouse in her current relationship, it's very easy to feel great about the attention that you are receiving from
Yeah.
outside, right? At first, it starts very subtle. As a young
Yeah.
girl, I used to say, you can't tell me sex just happened. But maybe I have my mindset on that hasn't changed, because there's usually a period of silence, and then something now happens. So that period of silence is the point where you know that something is about to happen, and you're asking yourself, should it go on, should it stop? So
Yeah.
even in extramarital relationships, a lot of times people say it had to do with not receiving attention from their spouse.
Yeah.
So, to be honest, I think that's what we need to start talking about. How many people actually feel like they're in a great relationship? How many people actually feel like it's true that a man cannot meet all your needs? If you're insecure, that's a different thing altogether, right? So, but how many people honestly feel like they are valued, seen, or heard in their relationship, so that you don't go outside? And then, so how do you work on those things to ensure that
Yeah.
temptation? Because, for example, somebody who is hungry and has not eaten for 3 days is very easy to steal. I'm not
Mm.
saying that, I'm not trying to relate that to sex. I'm talking about attention now,
Yeah.
like receiving attention from the outside. So temptation will come to everybody. And another thing I also say is that sometimes it's so easy to condemn someone who has been tempted. However, if you have not found yourself in a situation where temptation is open and everywhere and so common, it's easy for you to rattle and say, "Oh, this person made a mistake, or he did something that was very, very wrong." But you honestly have not checked that you live in a bubble. So a lot of us will fall for temptation because we're actually not guarded. We're actually not making effort to guard our relationship, to guard our mind, right? But we just live in a bubble. Maybe your bubble is you go to church, you go to market, and then you go home. You don't meet people, you don't socialize, you don't have the opportunity to be faced by good looking men and women every single day. So
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about all those nuances, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of us are not built to withstand temptation. Just a little attention. There are things that you like, and in a marriage, it's so easy to forget all those little things. Like, I remember I always tease my husband that I remember then in Lut, he would bring me cake every single day, like every single day. Now, if I ask him for cake, he's going to be like, I okay. Like, why do you need cake at this size? Please
He's shaming
shift.
your waistline.
Let's buy you oranges or something like that. But then all those things are things that endeared me to you, right? So why
Yeah.
are we not doing them? I know that the pressure of having children can be so much, or just getting on with our busy lives can be so much. But if we try to, refocus our relationships to the things that brought us together in the first place, that's one of the ways we can withstand temptation.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that, one,
in
there
a
are many
in a
nuances.
situation where
Yeah.
somebody doesn't feel that they are valued, they don't receive the attention that they ask for or they need or they require,
Mm.
as a man as or as a woman, no, you're a woman, but what do you think somebody can do in that situation to avoid falling into the temptation, falling into infidelity?
Sorry, what is the first scenario you painted? In a situation where,
In a situation where somebody is not getting enough attention as they ask for, because there are
I,
people who need more attention, there are people who need lesser attention.
yeah, so there are many parts to this. Number one, um, I'll ask, why do you need attention? An idle mind is the devil's workshop, right? If you're
Yeah.
not doing something that is taking that you're passionate about, the children can be exhausted. Let's say you have, I'm trying to imagine that you have children. The children are taking away so much energy from you, but
Yeah.
that doesn't actually keep you occupied mentally. Just It's just physically draining,
Mm.
right? Number one, are you doing something that you actually really love, that you lose yourself in it, that is not physically and mentally damaging in the long run? Then number two, if you want attention, was your spouse the kind of person who gives attention in the past? I know one of the things I preach to myself is, if you want a hug, give a hug. Sometimes
Yeah.
we want attention, but we sulk about it, and then we still don't get it because the other person is turned off by our sulking, right?
Yeah.
One good way to, make this happen is ask for it. You may have a spouse that if you ask for it outrightly, the person gets turned off. But what are the simple little things that you do to make this person happy? Now, this is a relationship that is not on the rocks, anyways. What are the simple little things that you can do to bring this person's attention? In Igbo, see eke no memma or make wars, right?
Yeah.
So basically, I'm saying that if you give this person attention, 70% chance that they will bring their attention back to you. So are
Yeah.
you doing that? Then the second thing is, find yourself in the circle of people who are passionate about their relationships and who
Mm-hmm.
love their spouses, both in word and in deed. If you find yourself in the midst of women who say men are scum, who are always condemning men, who are always finding fault in their own relationship, it's going to be hard for you to appreciate your own relationship where it is. You will become very, very good. You will find genius ways of resenting your partner or resenting your spouse, as the
Or
case may be.
even becoming very suspicious.
Yes. So your
And one
circle,
thing,
yeah, go
yeah.
ahead.
One thing, the thing you just said right now about the kind of circle you keep. Now, that
Yeah.
doesn't mean when somebody is going through a bad relationship, you just run away from them. That
Yeah.
actually means some people are bitter. And when you have a friend, when you have somebody who is bitter, there are people who are going through bad relationships,
Yeah.
going through issues in their marriages, but they are not bitter. They are
Exactly.
not going to tell you men are like this, men are like that. All of them are the same. Yeah, there are some men who are so many ways, but not all men are the same. Not all women are the same. So when you are around people who are really, really bitter, and that is why I say sometimes you need to protect your mental space. And let's bring this back to the topic of discussion about going to fight other women.
Mm.
I believe in praying. I believe in improving, but I also need to protect my mental space. And the greatest problem that you cannot run away from is the one living with you. Let me tell you, when you have issues with people outside, you can always say, I'll go back home and I'll not see them. But when your issue is in your home, especially, look, for example, things happen in marriages. There is no marriage that is perfect. The only perfection in marriage in some relationships is the willingness for both of them to sit down together. Okay. And I don't
Mm.
even believe my husband can meet all my demands. I don't believe I can meet all my husband's demands, but we just have to meet each other halfway. We have to compromise. Okay. And let me tell you something. Sometimes I do it better. Sometimes I
You're
say,
terrible at it.
because when you think the demands are too much, and this is also how I talk to myself when he is not meeting all my demands. Sometimes
Are
I'll
they
tell
are
myself,
they are they
is
demands
he
or
not a human
needs?
being? Leave him alone.
Are they demands or needs?
Demands and even needs. What? Okay, my husband cannot meet all my needs, and I
Okay.
cannot meet all my husband's needs. What I know is that I see his efforts. Okay, even when he's not doing it well, I see his efforts. And sometimes he's a human being, he needs help. Sometimes he just doesn't want to be bothered. And not because he doesn't want to be bothered by me or the kids. Sometimes he needs time alone to think. And sometimes when I talk to him, leave me alone, I'm thinking. And I sometimes I joke about it as if Thinking is not a full-time job. I can be thinking and be doing other things, but we are completely different. And one thing I'm learning as we go on is that we are completely different. I cannot be thinking and cooking when he wants to just sit down and think. Okay. So he can never ever meet all my needs. And marriage has so many nuances, but let's bring it back to the topic, fighting other women. Okay, whether it's your fault, whether it's not your fault. And one thing I don't like is when a woman steps out or when a man steps out, people start scrutinizing the spouse. It's like shaming the victim because already that person is hurting. Okay, when people come, that's why, let me tell you something, this mentality is why a lot of women, they don't speak up, because they know the society is going to start dissecting them. Did you cook well? Did you
Mm-mm.
dress well? Were you good in bed? Did you do this? Did you do that? Okay. Did I say did you? Did you do that?
What's
Okay.
even making me
And let me
laugh
tell
is
you, that is really, really very
I'm
hurtful.
imagining all the professional titles this person has to have to be able to do all this very well. Did you
Exactly.
dress well? Did you cook well? Were you good in bed? Like, marry 7 wives now.
And another thing is, personally, I don't look. Sometimes I wonder, how do we do all this? We are just what? I'm just one person. I'm a mother. I'm a wife. I'm a church member. I have my commitments in church. I am a worker. I am this, just like the man is. The most important
Yeah.
thing is understanding. And that is why sometimes I don't like making excuses for infidelity from the part of the man, from the part of the woman. Okay, as Christians, sometimes the Bible says God hates divorce. Okay,
Mm,
and the same people, some people, not let me not say the same people, because there are good men and women who would, because when you already know your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit,
mm.
letting another person touch this body is like desecration to me. Okay, so you will not have the courage to ask for a separation or a divorce, but you have the courage to go sleep with another woman outside. Okay, and that's how it kind of baffles me. And I know Christianity is not a point of arrival. Sometimes, even as a Christian, you have some questions in your mind that sometimes you don't even have the courage to ask because of the other judgmental Christians around you, who, instead of answering your questions or even having a discussion about it, tell you,
We'll
in
shut you
all
up.
your years as a Christian, you're still asking this kind of question.
Wow. My
Okay.
new mantra is I'm 34 years and I ask questions.
Exactly. Because, and one thing is that there are so many things we can never know the answers until we meet God in glory. There are so many questions I have in my head. No human being can answer. Only God will be able. Maybe the day I will go before Him, I will say, Daddy, but why did this happen? Why did that happen? Why was it like this? Why was it like that? Okay. And that is why faith is very important. Is a strong thing, and it's important people channel their faith very well. I'm digressing anyway. So that's why, let me still come back to the topic of this discussion. As a woman, if you have to come, and it's not as if not everybody who is watching is a Christian. Sometimes I find myself using just my Christian point of view. Now let's talk about it generally. If you
I'm
come
going to
to,
help you with that. Wait, let me
okay,
get it. So I think that maybe you're at the point where you are older now, but you have other young girls around you. You have
yeah,
kids who are girls as well.
yeah,
There's something called building self-confidence in a woman. That thing there, nobody can take it away from you.
yeah,
Nobody. There are 3 things I always remind myself of. I can buy myself anything I want. I will never fight for a man. Never.
yeah.
And I am enough in myself.
Have you been in a situation where you were cheated on?
No. But my first reaction is to pack my things and leave. Absolutely. I'm not going to ask you, oh, why? I will feel bad. I'm going to be very hot. I'll probably cry.
Yeah,
Yeah. But
yeah,
my only reaction will be, but then as I grow older, I realize that that first reaction of pack your bag and leave is easy when you don't have kids.
Exactly.
Once you have kids, the first thing you're thinking about is how do I explain to these children what has just happened? But
Yeah.
then I remind myself that we'll be all right.
Yeah.
And they have a great relationship with their dad, and I'm in no place to spoil that relationship. I was one who was hurt, not
Yeah.
them. Do you
Yeah.
understand? But to
Yeah.
be honest with you, my first resolve is to pack my bag and leave.
Okay.
Because I have been built up that way. I remember telling my dad once that, man, I don't think I'm going to get married though. He said, so I also did not grow up in a place where getting married was a priority for a woman.
Mm-hmm.
I was also told that I had to have a PhD before I get married. Yes. So I was built up to remind myself my father used to take me on dates. So I was built up in such a way that whether I liked it or not, I had to be enough in myself. Right. So
Yeah.
whatever you do if even if nobody did it for you, start doing it for yourself little by little, and also do it for the people, for the young girls around you. Self-confidence, because over time you realize that the problem that most women have is attention and
Yeah.
material things.
Mm-hmm.
That is most of the time what sometimes you may actually just like the person and you don't know why you like the person. Somebody was saying the other day that it's because women don't marry their friends. That is why they end up having affairs. And I'm like, not everybody has the opportunity to marry their friends, honestly. People just marry people that they were introduced to. But
Yeah.
you can also build a great relationship out of that.
Yeah.
So, looking at it from the human perspective, I think that if you have confidence in yourself, like you know your self worth, you know what you're worth every single day. I
Mm-hmm.
know that self worth and confidence, some people also are against it in the sense that if we are Christians, our confidence should come from God.
Mm-hmm.
But everything is step by step.
Can
If,
I
for
say something
example,
on that?
yeah,
If confidence comes from God and He gives me confidence as a gift, why should I be ashamed of having that confidence? Why should I have make excuses for having that confidence? You understand? So, and for example, let me answer first of all answer the question I asked you whether you've been cheated on before.
mm,
Personally, I would think that I've been cheated on before. The first thing I did
mm,
was turn back and leave.
mm,
Okay. And this is somebody I was telling. Maybe I'm laughing about it because the relationship was young. I wasn't committed in it. We were just trying to, okay. Let me not say not committed because at that point, I expected him to wait with me. And he agreed to wait with me. And when that happened and I walked out, his excuse was, and he thought he was showing me respect by not being all over me, but he said he was exercising himself with others while he was waiting. So at that point, I said, look, our ideas and everything, they are not aligned. So you're free to do what you want to do. And was it hurtful? Yes, because it was like somebody telling you you were not enough. And I was much younger then, okay? It was like somebody telling you you're not enough. It hurts me, but that was not a long relationship as in marriage, because marriage is a huge, huge step, okay?
marriage is
And a
deep.
very long marriage is a huger step, if there's a word like that. So, that was okay. As young as I was, the first
Mm,
thing I did was not even to ask him questions or even ask the girl, "What are you doing here?" Whatever. I didn't even want to see the girl. I did not even want the girl to see me, so that next day, another day, he will see me on the road and say, "Look at her." No, I had too much respect for myself, even at that very, very young age. Okay, so I just walked out, and that was the end of it. I did not ask questions. Even when he wanted to give explanation, at that point, I said, "Look, I told you one thing, two things I would never tolerate is raising your hand on me, even a finger, and infidelity. He said technically it wasn't infidelity because we were not married. But since you're already showing yourself like this, am I not going to be a fool to marry you?
Yeah, but
Okay.
that's the thing. Some people still get married to that person expecting that he will change. I
Yeah.
remember hearing a message saying, "Don't marry a man expecting that he will change. You are not the Holy Spirit."
Yeah. Exactly.
So that's the thing about life. So even if you say your
Even in
Christian
marriage,
values,
even
yeah,
in marriage, maybe you
mm,
married him and thought he was going to be faithful and he starts cheating.
mm,
I will pray. I'll put you in the hand of the Holy Spirit, but I don't know the time frame of God. Some people are like Pharaoh. Remember, you see, even in the Bible, in all the warnings God gave him, he still did not change.
yeah,
I will leave you in the hands of God, though. But if it comes to a point where that negativity is affecting me so much, I know my breaking points. And when I reach my breaking points, I have to give myself, like Nigerians will say,
borrow
borrow
myself
myself
bread.
and take myself away from that situation, because there's a very thin line between sanity and insanity.
Yeah. So that's part of the conversation I was sharing with you yesterday, right? A lot of people were saying there is no reason why these people should be divorced, that God is against divorce. And I asked a question. I say, if this, I didn't read her response eventually because I got carried away with work. But how do you continue to remain in a place where you're being treated less than an animal? That
Yeah.
some people will say, oh, did he beat you? Did he cheat on you? Did he something else? But you don't feel like there are many ways you can treat somebody without the person, without doing all of this thing, and the person feels like worse than an infidel or worse than an
Yeah.
animal,
Yeah.
right? So my
Yeah.
question keeps being, at what point do we as Christians tell our loving brother and sister that you guys need some time off from each other?
Mm-hmm.
So you said some people are like Pharaoh,
Yeah.
and you continue to be in this marriage, and this person is not changing. This person keeps going out every night. This person
Mm-hmm.
keeps coming back the next day to tell you I'm sorry. This person says, oh, I'm willing to go to pastor with you and confess all my sins. The person
Mm-hmm.
will confess all their sins, go
And do it
back
again
again
the
to the
following
same
day.
sin. So for how long are we going to continue in that madness?
Let me say,
Sometimes these people, there are people
personally,
who are obviously not willing to change. There are
mm-hmm.
people who say they want to change, but they change for 2 days and then go back to their old ways.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are people who you are not even sure whether they are changing or whether they are not changing. They are just the
Yeah.
same.
Mm-hmm. Some people have fundamental issues they need to work on. Okay. And one thing is, that's why I say, when I have somebody going through issues in marriage, I want to see how far you have gone. At this point, you are telling me now, what are you deciding to do? Because the moment you hear it is the moment you heard it, and you think, oh, you should do this, you should pray, you should do that. But baby, this has been happening since 10 years ago. And
Yeah,
you are just hearing it after 10 years. And the person is telling you at the point they have decided enough is
is
enough.
enough.
Okay, that is why when I see somebody who has decided enough is enough, I can accompany you with the word of God. I can accompany you with my presence, with my friendship. Okay, because there are some moments in somebody's life that even the word of God starts sounding judgmental to that person. You really have to know at what point is that person. Is this redeemable? Do you think this relationship is redeemable? And one thing is that even in a moment of separation, that is when you have to stay away. Pray all you have to do. Stay away, maybe because of your mental health. Some people, if it's about domestic violence, already I'll come and drag you. If you're my sister, I'll drag you away from there. If it's about other problems in marriage that is not affecting you physically, that might even affect emotionally, mentally in any way, I have to be there. Sometimes being a friend, being close to person, as a Christian sister, as a worldly sister, as whatever, is just being there, holding their hands, even sometimes not saying anything to that person. Asking, have you eaten today? What about this? What about that? Sometimes that's just what the person needs. And if somebody, one thing, why some women get to the point, they think it is easier to fight another woman than to
Mm.
actually live, because they feel I have to make a lot of explanations to other people. They are going to ask me, is it all? And one other thing that is so hurtful that people do, is he the only one? Men are polygamous in nature. Men are this. And this boils back to what you said earlier, knowing your circle, reducing
And
the
then they
people
will
in your
tell you, ignore him and face your children.
ignore him and face your children.
Did I marry my children?
I did not come to marry my children. I came to marry this man that is a community P, that has become a community P. So, so I did not come to marry my children. I can be a mother to my children
But I
outside
can't
of,
be a wife to them.
okay? So that is it. Telling somebody, ignore him. It's easy to say, ignore him. There are people who are that strong. They can, and let me tell you something. When you ignore, when
Mm.
you decide to ignore, most people who ignore, they are in their mind
Building
conjuring
more
up how
resentment
to, they become so resentful and they are
and
conjuring
bitter.
up how to do it back to him. Some people might not actually go out of their way to be unfaithful, okay, but
Mm.
they will try to do other things to hurt that man.
Yeah.
You are not fighting him for infidelity, but you are hurting him in other ways. So why stay together there and make each other miserable?
I also thought of something yesterday. I said most times, it's easy to give marital advice when you're not wearing the shoe.
Exactly.
It's very easy.
Yeah.
Very, very easy. And another thing too that I wanted to point out was, I think I should start writing down because I tend to forget my thoughts. But in the issue of, sorry, excuse me, when it comes to the issue of going out to fight another woman, which is what we're talking about today.
Mhm.
What if you go there and the woman is a WW
Ha.
title holder?
They
What
will
will
beat
you
you.
do?
They will sleep with your husband and beat you on top of it.
Or maybe she lives with her brothers. And her brothers don't even know why you came to fight their sister. They just know that somebody came to fight and then they
Look,
beat you up.
even if they know, they will beat you first and then ask their sister what happened. And later, maybe
Mm-hmm.
they will even be angry with their sister. But you're not
Yeah.
going to come before me, even me. Okay? If I have a sister, God forbid I reject it in Jesus' name. If I have a
Amen.
sister that goes out of her way to step into and go and sleep with or have an affair with a married man, if you come before me to beat her, madam, I will join and beat you. And then later, I'm going to curse out my sister. So just coming before me to beat my own sister in my very before. No, it will not happen. So, and that the thing is, nothing, even in marriage, outside the home, nothing justifies violence.
Mm.
Okay, unless you are beating a family member. Look, I have a whole a lot of weakness for family. Don't touch
Mm.
my family member before me. Okay, if you come to complain what they did to you, complain all you want, but don't just raise your hands on them. Okay, I will tell you, it hasn't come to that. If you have a case, go to the police.
So the nuance here is, or the question we're trying to answer is, would you go outside to fight another woman?
God forbid, I would not. I don't even have strength to fight. Have you seen me fight?
I
I've
don't
never.
have
The
strength.
only
That's
person
why I
I fought
married
with
my
in my life
husband.
is
I
your
don't have
husband
strength to fight.
and my other brother.
The only people you have fought.
The only people I have fought in my okay, no, no, no. There is this girl, this little girl. She beat me and went to cry to my mother. My mother gave me her own too. I just with that anger and went back and beat her up. But I'm not a fighter. I've never been a fighter. I don't
I
even have
don't.
the strength to fight. Okay, so even if I had the strength to fight,
Yeah,
I
I
would never
remember.
give another woman the satisfaction of thinking that, even the man himself, I'm not going to give you the satisfaction of thinking that I'm going to go that crazy to go outside and fight another person. Even if I know the woman, I can still see her every day and pass and act like I didn't know what happened, because the person I have a business with is my husband. He is the one
Yeah,
who came to marry me. He is the one who
I
promised
personally,
me faithfulness.
yeah, I personally just think it's bringing yourself way too low. No matter how angry you are, it's
Yeah.
not the woman. Like everybody is an authority over the choices that they make,
Yeah.
right? So no
Mhm.
matter how much your husband steps out to go after another woman, it is
Mm.
your husband who stepped. It was a choice both people made. They usually say two consenting adults.
Yeah.
So sometimes I know that sometimes people say, oh, that Jazz was involved and that's why the man left, right? But
Yeah.
there was something that led to the man leaving, and then he was jazzed,
Yeah.
which is another
And
whole
another,
story
yeah,
altogether.
I already said this before you joined.
Mm.
Okay. I think the issue of bringing in voodoo or jazz or juju inside it is a way of making people not take responsibility for their actions.
Exonerating
Because
people from
before
their
somebody,
actions.
yeah,
Yeah.
before somebody can come that close to you to
Mm-hmm.
jazz you, you must have given space.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's why I say, as a human being, as a man, as a woman, you should know when somebody wants more than friendship from you. As a man, when a woman wants more than casual platonic friendship from you, you sense it.
That's why people say that when it comes to youth, lust and lustful temptations, the Bible keeps saying, flee from
Flee.
all appearances of evil. It didn't say negotiate. It
Yeah.
didn't say tell her, oh, you know what, this is not nice. Flee from all appearances of evil. And then again, he said, what was the other one? Be sober, be vigilant, for your enemy, the devil, is prowling around like a roaring lion, seeking whom to devour.
Yeah.
But then there's something that came up in that conversation from yesterday. People were not asking, so when we go to the altar, we say for better, for worse. What does worse actually mean in that relationship? Personally, I'm a Christian, I love Jesus, but I don't think that worse means I should stay there and be a punching bag. That worse means I should stay there and the man is working, but he's not providing for the family. That
Mm,
worse means that I should stay there, even though maybe we're not communicating for
mhm,
several issues. But I know that there are wars that can be solved.
mhm. Let me
Okay,
say
I also
something
said
about
that.
that.
I
For
also said
better,
that the
for
Bible
worse.
says. Sorry, I'm coming. I also said the Bible says, "For better, for worse, till death." The vow, for better, for worse, till death do us part. That death did not say that I had one that will kill me. So it was not part of it.
In
It
fact,
was
I like that you
accidental,
brought up the
natural. Sorry, go ahead.
I like that you brought up the issue of for better, for worse.
Yeah.
Okay. When the worst is coming from outside, okay, I will take the bullet for you. I will
Mm,
fight till the last. I will shield you. I will do everything. But when that worst is coming from you, and one thing nobody interpreted where the worst is coming from. That's why I said, when you, the person who is supposed to fight with me against
mm,
outside forces, when you
mm,
become that force fighting against me, okay. And personally, that's what I think that for better, for worse is when he is sick, when he
mm.
does not have money, when he needs me emotionally, psychologically, when I'm supposed to be there for him to cover him. That is the worst. I would stand there because I promised him that to shield him. But that the worst when it becomes that he is the one now going out of his way to drive me crazy.
But someone said something. I also saw something on Facebook maybe a year, maybe 3 years ago, because I haven't been on Facebook for 2 years. Person said that women nowadays don't even have the kind of patience and resilience that our mothers had. That our mothers were able to stay in marriages no matter how bad it was. But
Mhm.
today, small misunderstanding, the woman has gone. Please, how? First of all, I think that our mothers won the only thing that gave them recognition in life. Not my mother anyway, but our mothers. The only
Mhm.
thing that gave them recognition in life was being married.
Marriage and motherhood.
They were also raised to be wives and mothers. And
Yes, and nothing
so
else.
it was a situation like I was watching Bridgerton recently, and you also realize that it was the same thing for women at that time. Even women in the Bible that we read, they had to have sons to be protected, regardless of, because one day their husbands were going to die. So not
Mhm.
having a son was also a big issue. That means the woman had no place except a man was around her or
Exactly.
in her life. It
Exactly.
was even a taboo to still remain in your father's house at a certain age in the Bible.
Mhm.
Even though that I know that a lot of traditions were intertwined with what we read in the Bible, it doesn't mean that the Bible is bad in any way. Just that these were people who were reading about and this was their tradition. But I'm just saying this to say that there are a lot of differences between the women we had then, that their self-worth was tied to being married and having kids, and the
Yeah.
women we have now who are more enlightened, have gone out, have more exposure, have gone beyond their husband's house and their father's house. They've
Yeah.
traveled, even though we still have the culture of a woman is working but they still don't want her to live alone. that culture is still a little bit in us. It's gradually going away. But what do you think about the fact that our mothers were able to? I know a woman that knew that her husband was sleeping with her daughters or a particular one, but she stayed in that marriage bitter for the rest of her life. And according to what I heard, the last time I heard about them was that sometimes she acts like somebody who is mentally unstable. How would you be mentally stable
How would she be
when you?
unstable?
And then
Sorry, how would she be
the
stable?
girls are mad at her. Like, why did you keep quiet? Do you
Exactly.
understand? And they were all church members and church deacons, you know. So in such so first of all, what is the thin line between better, worse, bad? I know that when we have like communication issues in relationships, it looks worse, but those things can be resolved. But when
No,
you
when
have
you're
made
just
up
talking
your
about
mind
it, you
to,
know that these are differences in opinion between a husband
yes,
and a wife, disagreeing. Okay, in the heat of the moment, it seems like the end of the world, but after some time, you just realize,
this
maybe
thing
if we sit
does not
down and
matter.
talk about
Oh,
it again, we'll resolve.
yeah. So, first of all, we want to talk about what is worse, like what is really, really worse, because marriage is not without issues. Every relationship will always have issues, right?
Yeah.
Marriage is not without its issues. So, we're not advocating for once you have a misunderstanding, carry your bag and go.
Mhm.
No. Worse means a lot of things. It could be internal, it could be external. It could also be that
It could mean different things for different
it
people.
could yes, it could also be that our way of raising children is different. Words could mean different things. But I think that when it has come to the point where this person has obviously decided that they would always make you suffer or always punish you, that's
Mhm.
different.
Yeah.
See, I think
You
it
know when
takes
you get
some
to
sort
your
of
limits.
yeah, it takes some sort of wisdom. It takes wisdom
Yeah.
because there are some that are glaring, like beating you, um, making sure that you never have money in your hand, like taking all the money that you have and also not giving you the money that he is earning. There are different ones, you know. There are some husbands that even rape their wives. There are different things. But I think that there are some little things that can be resolved based on, you know what, forget about this issue, it's a non-issue. And one day the person comes around. I remember that I listened to this lady. She has this podcast, Here for Wives. I love her first few solo episodes. They make a lot of sense. And I've been listening to another podcast called Own Your Forever. It's run by two, no, not two couples. It's run by a couple. They are not two. It's run by a couple. Yeah. So I love the nuances that they bring into relationship and opening your eyes to how to just enjoy your relationship. So
Yeah.
I want to reiterate that worse does not mean any little small rat issue that just passes
Yeah.
by. Worse for me is something that threatens your life and your mental health. And like
Yeah.
she pointed out, some people are just feral. No
Yeah.
matter how long you're going to pray, they probably will never change because the devil, because what was that place that they said the devil has turned their heart around and made their heart of stone. So repentance is not near.
Mm-hmm.
I think we don't read that part when we're causing people to follow their husband that is beating them home.
Yeah.
Then the second thing I mentioned was, do you remember? Second time, okay, yes, the resilience that our mothers had to stay within the mental and emotional torture they were going through, and why today women are carrying their bag and leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Over to you.
Yeah. Just as you said, before you get to a point where you say I've had enough, there are so many ways you can look for help. And another thing, look for help. One of the
Mm,
worst advices I've heard women being given is do not let an outsider know, do not let a third party know what is happening in your relationship. Okay, and to a certain extent, that is true, because it's
mm,
not as if each moment I argue with my husband, I'm going to tell someone else, look, he did this, he did that, blah, 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 blah. Okay. But you need to know when you need help. You need to know when to ask for help, and make sure you ask for help. And if you have anything in a relationship, before it gets to a point where the other person has already checked out emotionally and mentally and gets to a point of infidelity, try to work on it. But do not make excuses for infidelity. That is my own. Stop being crazy. Even if you want to work on that relationship, the topic of this live today is not to go out of your way to fight other women for the man you still continue living with, because it's not a piece of furniture that another woman carried. He's not a piece of wood that can be taken from one point to the other. Whatever he does, whatever he did, he decided to do it. That was his decision. That was her decision. And sometimes it's as if we're talking about male infidelity.
Male.
A lot of women are unfaithful too. A
I
lot
think
of
it's on an
women,
equal
yeah,
balance. It's just
a
that
lot
women
of
are
women are
smarter.
doing very bad things. But do you know why we tend to talk about mostly the infidelity of men? It is because men get a lot of people make a lot of excuses for men
Yeah.
more than the woman.
Yeah.
The moment a woman steps out, she
And
is
people find
every
out.
bad thing in this world.
Yeah.
But when a man steps out, it's as if it's the burden. The other women, sometimes other women even try to shame you for your husband's actions. You understand? So there are so
Some
many
people say,
battles a
don't you know
woman
how to
must
hold
fight.
a man?
Huh?
Some people will ask you, don't you know how to hold a man? Do you need me to come
How
and
to
teach
keep a
you?
man. Look, I don't even sometimes when I hear such words, I would want somebody who doesn't want to be kept will never stay with you if you like somersault on how many times. Okay. Now that doesn't mean that your attitude cannot drive a man outside. But before you get to the point where you go outside, be a man and leave that woman. Do not
Mm,
pretend to be in a marriage with somebody and be sleeping with someone else. You could bring diseases
mm.
into your home. Okay. Then that is double why. If I come to a point where I have to step out, I will leave you first. God forbid, because I don't want to speak all this nonsense into existence. Father, I cover my marriage with the blood of Jesus. I cover Babon Chrissy with the blood of Jesus. So I don't even want to speak these things into existence. But let me just say, if I, as a human being, before I get to the point of stepping out on you, even if I leave you, you understand? And one thing, people think when a marriage ends, you are free to do whatever you want. No, you are not free. Now, let's forget about other things. Even if the marriage ends, your body is still the temple of the Holy Spirit. And if you see it as this, that is when you know that that's a very big decision.
Some
If you
people are trying to take revenge or taking back what was not given to them or just trying to get back at somebody, but not knowing that they're doing more damage to themselves.
I like that you mentioned revenge. And sometimes you are guilted into forgiveness. You need to forgive, you need to do this. I believe forgiveness is not me putting
Mm.
myself at your disposal to do as you want because you are damaging me mentally. Some people talk at themselves while they are walking. You don't know what they have in there. I don't want to get to that point. I just as you
Some
people, some
people are
people
praying,
yeah, so just like some people would say, face your children. I have to be mentally, physically fit to face my children and take care of my children. So I don't
True.
want to get to a point where I am embarrassing my children and my children are now taken care of instead of taking care of them.
Mm.
Okay, so forgiveness for me in this case means not taking revenge on you, not trying to hurt you. I am just trying to protect myself.
Yeah.
So I believe I can forgive you and still stay away from you so that I do not present myself as a living sacrifice to you to do as you wish because I'm a human being. You could end up damaging me. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. Forgiveness, yes, the Bible says we should forgive, and forgiveness, you do it most especially for you, for your relationship with God, for your own well being. Okay,
But I
and not
also think,
going out of your way to take revenge
yeah,
against that person to destroy his relationship with his kids because you're hurting him in another way and you're hurting your kids
yeah.
most especially making sure that your children don't see him anymore, or maybe filling their heads with a lot of lies about their father.
Yeah.
You are damaging your children, and sometimes hurt and bitterness can bring you to that point. And that is also why I say protect your
Don't
mental.
get to the point where bitterness takes root of you.
Yes, because when bitterness takes over, you damage so many things around you,
And
thinking
in
you are
you.
being strong. Some people think it is a show of strength to continue taking it, just like their mothers did. I'm not even going to say my mother, just like their mothers did. Okay. And you think it's normal, but while she was there and you thought it was a show of strength, she was
Yeah.
damaging you, the children, she was damaging even the
True.
man. Because
True.
even a man who wants to retrace his steps, okay, when you have hurt a woman to the extent that she becomes bitter, even when you want to come back, that bitterness is kind of something that deters even the man who wants to come back. Okay, it is easy for a man to realize himself and maybe go crawling to a woman who is not showing any sign of bitterness, who is there taking care of herself, worshiping her God, crawling and begging. Maybe he has realized what he missed. But when you are that bitter, and let me tell you, don't even tell any woman, don't be angry, don't be bitter. Look, it's easier to say that. But when you take away yourself from that scenario and work on yourself and try to be wholesome again, it is easier to, not be bitter. But when you tell a woman, continue staying there because your mothers, your grandmothers, they endured it, you turn a woman into a very bitter, I don't even know whether to see a woman, and she starts damaging around a lot of people around her, the children, people around her, even the man himself. Okay.
Yeah.
So, to the women who are dealing with infidelity or who have dealt with infidelity, and even in the comment section, if you have dealt with infidelity, I know a lot of people might not want to say it, but it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's not your fault. Things happen, and if eventually you were able to bring your relationship back again, I want to hear from you. Comment and explain to us how you did it. Okay. And the
Yes. So
steps you took to get to a point where you came back together again. And if you're somebody who stayed, who continued working on it, if it's possible, write it. Tell us how you were able to survive it without being damaged. Okay. So we want to hear.
personally, I think that like I said, in my first few years of marriage, I used to say, if I'm cheated on, hey, that is one thing I cannot take. I will carry my bag and I will go. But I think 2018 January, God arrested me in a way that was different. And I started looking at the concept of forgiveness. You know, I think that now, I know that, like I say, that if you've never been in that situation, it's easy to rattle what you're going to do and what you will not take. But now I'm looking at it from the point of view of maturity. The first thing I'm going to pursue is, God, how do I bring myself to a place of forgiveness? Because I need it. I've realized that God did not ask us to forgive so that we would set the other person free, but so that we ourselves will be set free. And that's the most important thing. If you can
Yeah.
find forgiveness in your heart, you will
Mm-hmm.
be unburdened. You would feel freer. Because if you're still alive, there's a reason you are alive. If you
Mm-hmm.
let bitterness take root of you, you have cut short your own destiny and your own glory here on earth.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's so much that you will not be able to achieve. So forgiveness is you looking at yourself as a bird in the hand that is worth more than two in the bush, and deciding that, you see, this life that I have, I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to set myself free. Because
Mm.
a lot of times there are people that still go on to, maybe go on with their career, but they still carry a well of bitterness in their heart. Just
Yeah.
because you're prospering on the outside,
Yeah.
or maybe prosperity in terms of material things, does
Yeah.
not mean that your heart is at a free and loving place.
Yeah.
And then forgiveness, depending on what has happened, forgiveness does not necessarily mean reconciliation. That's one thing we have to be very clear on. Forgiveness is not reconciliation, but forgiveness is me deciding to toe the path that will set my heart free and
And
cause me
set him free too in
to
your
live
heart.
to live in abundance, to embrace the light and to walk towards it. That
Yeah.
for me is what matters for you as a person. Because
Yeah.
even when we're talking about, there's a thin line between insanity and sanity. Just because you left the relationship does not mean that you are sane.
Exactly.
You can still be absolutely insane outside that relationship.
Exactly.
So pursue healing like it depends on you, and then pursue forgiveness like it depends on God. Seek
Yeah.
out seek out opportunities to learn and to grow. Maybe you are still in the relationship, but there's an opportunity to mend it. For me, I'm always saying that for better for worse means that we're going through shit, but both of us are willing to work on it. Even if one person is 20% willing, there
Yeah.
has to be a willingness to work on that
Yeah.
relationship. So rather than listen to all the things that Instagram has to say or Facebook has to say about relationship, like, you see people talking about, oh, my man cooked this morning, let me tell you how to get your man to cook. All that thing is a lie. It's a big lie. There are reasons that the man cooked that you do not know about. There are reasons that the man did what he did that you do not know about. So what am I trying to say? Focus on resources that would help you have a loving relationship. Even if you met, even if you were introduced, even if you didn't know this person, even if the marriage was like a mistake, maybe somebody got pregnant and then this was not the person you wanted to marry, it was just a fling and then you got married. No need living in regrets. One thing I tell myself is this: if you're African, there are you have very slim chances of marrying 3 times if you're African. That's the truth. So you see, as I am now, I know that even my mother-in-law self will not even allow me to marry a second time. Do you understand? That's the
Mhm.
truth. Because she will call you and say, but you married my son now. Listen to me, let me advise you. But do it
Mhm.
like this, do it like this, do it like this. Then my mother will be from the other side, pursuing me and attacking me in her midnight prayers. So since you have only 90% chance of one opportunity to fall in love or be married, make the best of it. I
Exactly.
think that a lot of times we spend a lot of resources we spend a lot of time and money and, investing in how we can look good, investing in how, like, I think my hair is a mess, really. Apologies if you think it's a
You're
mess. No,
looking.
no apologies. I'm 34. I don't apologize for anything again. If you don't like it, sorry.
No, you
I
apologize
dressed up.
for this,
I
but not.
dressed I apologize for things that I do wrong, but I don't apologize for my existence and my presence in
Yeah.
any situation these days. So I'm just saying all of this to say that find resources, because we spend money and time on our phones, on the things that we love, on our beddings. Spend money and time investing in your relationship. It's not
Yeah.
really about even attending marriage seminars.
Mhm.
Maybe you need to start talking to a therapist from time to time, because sometimes your
Exactly.
head can be so clogged, your eyes
Exactly.
can be so blinded that you're seeing things from only your perspective. And because this person is your spouse, it's so
Mhm.
hard for you to take in what they're saying. There are
Yeah.
many, say, don't give the devil a foothold in your relationship. There are many things that could open the door for the devil to come in. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that um I'm not saying this to say that you are to blame if something goes wrong in your relationship. No, but I'm just saying this to say invest in that your relationship, time, money, and your presence as well. Because sometimes we're also not present. These days, I used to wonder how my mom used to make soy milk, make zobo, make this, make that, and still be human, and still run her business, and still take care of us, and still help me with my homework. You
Mhm.
know, I think our phones take away a lot of our time. And our phones are also reminding us that we're not enough, that our relationships are not enough, that something is missing in our own relationship. Why? Because the grass is always green on the other side. You
Mhm.
always look at it through skewed lenses. If your grass is not green, stop looking at the other side. Go and buy
Tend to
water can. Water can acquire in those days.
tend
Go
to
and
your
buy,
grass.
yes, go and buy water can, buy a mower, arrange your own grass well so you can pepper them if that is what is hungering you. But that's not the point. The point is make sure that you are tending to your own grass. So, like I said, if it means you have to talk to a therapist because your lenses are now colored and a lot biased that you can't understand your husband's point of view, if it means that you have to be in a group where people are always, I would recommend Here for Wives. It's on Facebook. Go and look for it. If it means you have to be in a group where people are always saying good things about marriage, go
Yeah.
there, plug yourself in. If it means listening to podcasts, I love listening to podcasts. I've listened to Here for Wives. I've listened to Own Your Forever. So the good thing about podcasts is if you open one podcast, it's going to open all the other podcasts. Like it will recommend podcasts to you. You can even Google great podcast that would help my marriage grow, right?
Mhm.
Invest in that relationship. Read books about great relationships, or read. I know Tim Lahai just came to my mind now. listen to Tim anywhere you have found Tim Lahai, listen to him. But if you're at that point where it's just normal misunderstanding, or even if it is right, it's become riotous. There's no relationship that is irredeemable. That's one. However, you must take care of yourself. You must take care of your mental health. You must also be willing to invest in that relationship.
And
Don't
another
take your
thing,
don't take your relationship for granted. This is 2021.
yeah. Another thing I want to add to that is before you get to a point where you become crazy and you go start warning people, look for other types of help.
Yeah.
Talk to someone. And one thing I know about our culture in Africa, and sometimes it's also maybe lack of the finance to talk to a therapist or a marriage counselor because it's their
I
time you
think
need.
people, it may not be finance. People still frown on it.
Yeah, then you have to talk to. There are personally, I don't believe in going to family members to resolve
And I
issues.
also don't believe in pastors. Pastors are not counselors.
Huh?
Sorry. I also don't believe in going to pastors. My mom is a pastor, by the way. I grew up a
Yeah, so
church
I
girl,
don't also
but
believe going to my
pastors are not counselors. Pastors are not certified. Pastors also have their own problems.
exactly.
Please stop
Pastor is
calling your pastors in the middle of the night to
yeah,
share your problems. They have their problems. This is
exactly.
personal.
Pastor is a married man who also has his own issues. Okay. And one thing I also say, pastors, learn to tell your members, I don't know how to do this.
I can't
Okay.
solve everything.
It's not going to reduce your quality as a pastor, or maybe think you're not make people think you're not capable.
Yeah,
If you're called to share the word of God, that doesn't mean you are an expert in everything because you're still figuring out your own life. So we also have to be humble enough to say, look, I don't know it. I'm also trying to figure out this woman I married. I'm also trying to figure out this man I married. So there are people, and let me tell you something, it's not even as if the therapists, their
it's
own life
perfect.
all put together, all perfect. It's just that they have the professional, they are equipped professionally to how do I say, to handle some things. Sometimes your problem might even be just communication. You
Mm-hmm.
understand? They are professional equipped to let you see where he is lacking, where you are lacking, how you can communicate effectively. And let me tell you, in a lot of marriages, okay, I'm coming. In a lot of marriages, if you're able to handle your communication very well, I think 60 or 70% of your problems
True.
are gone. Sometimes it's our way of communication that causes a lot of problems, then resentments, then lacking in something, then lacking in another, and the other person looking outside. And let me tell you, sometimes that thing you're looking outside for, you don't just get it. And sometimes there are also people that no matter how you give them, if you like, somersault, be 100 type of women for them at the same time, they will still do what they need to do. But the thing is, at what point do you say enough is enough? Because it's one thing to have a spouse who fell into infidelity once. Oh, Father Lord, I don't know how to handle that. But when you are living with a womanizer, a community P, and then you go and start warning people, fighting people, warding them off like flies, okay? Um, you have to come to a point where you have to seek help for yourself, for your own mental health, and then take a decision instead of exposing yourself. Because one thing is, your children did not ask to have a father who is a community P, who is a philanderer, who is a womanizer. You, their mother, going out there to fight other people, you are hurting them twice because you are embarrassing them. You are even, and when you embarrass children so much, they start feeling inferior to others. Okay. So before you take some steps you think are normal for you, I don't know if it's normal for anybody to go and beat up anybody, but before you take those steps, consider how you are hurting them, first of all, yourself, and then the most important people God has given you. Because it's easier for people to say, because of your children, remain there, because of your children, do this. But because of your children, you have to come to a point where you take a decision and try to avoid doing things or taking steps that hurt those children twice.
I think we're assuming that there are children in the relationship. There are relationships where there are no children as well. And sometimes the man claims that he's doing this because the woman does not have kids. That's
Okay,
another story for another day as well.
yeah, that is a different thing altogether. Okay, you are actually doing it to bring in a child. And okay, this is YouTube and we are talking from the point of view of Africans. There are people of other cultures, you understand, that might not understand what it means for a man to go out because he wants a child.
Yeah.
Okay.
He may
And
not necessarily be looking for a child though. He's
mhm,
just going out every day because some men say to their wives, after everything I do with you, you still
mhm.
don't give birth. So
Of
what's
course,
the
they're looking
point?
for children outside if they have to go outside to sleep with other women.
Honestly, they're not looking for children outside.
Look, that
There
that
are
is
some that are not looking for children. They are just doing it to either punish her, get back at her for all the reasons that they come up
and
with,
that
right?
becomes worse than witchcraft if somebody
Yes.
has to go to that length to hurt a woman. For and let me, sometimes when people, I would prefer to use, I'm also training myself to use the word when couples don't have children, when a couple don't have children, because sometimes you unconsciously, and some things we have to unlearn, because it is the woman that brings forth children. When there is um
When
how
there
do
is
I
no child
say,
in the
when
relationship,
there's no child in the relationship,
we say
we
the woman did not
say
give
when
birth.
the woman did not give birth, when she did not, when she doesn't have children, okay,
Mm,
somebody has to give it to her and then she'll produce it out, okay.
mm,
So we don't know who is not handling their part. And I don't even want to, because this should be another video on its own, because if we touch it just a little, it's a very sensitive issue, okay, because I don't believe infidelity is um something you can say somebody is not doing well, because
mm,
sometimes even me that have my own children, I do not do anything specially to have it, to have them.
mm.
I did what every other person did, and God gave them to us. Okay, so it's not even something I can tell myself kudos for. I can tell myself kudos for the way I'm raising them, but not for having them. Okay, because it's not something anybody can say I have the power over it to make it happen. Maybe one of these days we'll talk about this issue too.
Okay.
And the video is becoming too long, so maybe we'll round off here. Next week we'll come up with something else to talk about.
Okay. I just wanted to say something with regards to communication. Communication is not that we're talking. We may be
Mm.
talking all the time, but we're not communicating.
Yeah.
Communicating is that telling you something, you're able to receive it and you understand what I'm saying. So
Mm.
don't mistake that we're shouting at ourselves all the time for that we're talking to each other.
Exactly.
It's very different because during those times when we're actually talking but nobody's listening, there's a wall between the two of us and we're both throwing our words at the wall. And then again, when you talk about taking a therapist on, before you talk to a therapist, even always refer to Titus women. The Titus women that I think it was who was writing, Titus or Paul, that was writing, that said that these are older women who have wise counsel. But remember
Mm.
that there's something called the counsel of Ahithophel. So if
Mm.
you're going to talk to a therapist or a wise old woman, always remember that the person's value system matters a lot. If you're
Yeah.
talking to somebody who is telling you things that are not of your own value, that you
Yeah.
know that, of course, we all have that sixth sense in us that is telling us that no, this person is leading me down the path of destruction. Then you
Yeah.
have to walk away. One of the
Exactly.
things I asked a therapist that I want to work with was, who is your own therapist?
Yeah.
I ask questions.
Yeah.
Make sure that you're asking questions, because as a therapist, you can't sit down and receive everybody's bad energy and go
Exactly.
home the same. It's not possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it from me.
That's why I think my pastor should not be my marriage counselor. He has
Yeah.
his own issues. He knows a lot of other people's issues. And as a human being, that can be overwhelming. And good pastors, they have a way of No, not just good pastors, good human beings. When other people are hurting, a part of you, a tiny part of you is hurting for them too. Imagine when you know about different people's issues, that can be overwhelming for one person, coupled with his own issues, life issues as a human being. So that is why I say, no, no. Pastors should just be pastors. They are not marriage counselors. They have their own whatever. Even your therapist has a therapist. Your marriage counselor has a marriage counselor, because even though he's counseling others, he cannot counsel himself. Because to him, for example, a marriage counselor, if he's a man or a woman, your wife sees you as just my husband, not my marriage counselor. Okay. For example, if my husband is a marriage counselor, for me, he is my husband. I am seeing all his shortcomings and all his faults. Okay. So he can never be my marriage counselor. If we need a marriage counselor, we'll go to someone else, and that someone else will have their own marriage counselor too. So we'll have to round it up here, even though I know we rambled off topic a bit because we touched a lot of so many other things. But as time goes on, we'll kind of have a circle, come full circle, if that is possible, with all our discussions. Because in this channel, we talk mostly about relationship, about family, lifestyle, everything that has to do with the family. And for your information, my guest today, I was trying to put her name up on the screen, but I was talking and I couldn't do it. I tried different ways to do it. My guest today is still my little brother's wife, Dr. Ezinne Meribe. Dr.
If
Ezinne,
not for the love I have for her, I would have disowned her a long time ago. Because whenever she says that little brother, I'm like,
yeah.
oh my God.
I have to continue saying it because sometimes your husband forgets I'm older than him. So I have to put it there, and I have to continue repeating it because I'm proud of you, right? So that's why I want everybody to know you're my brother's wife. And since I
Eh,
don't have an elder brother, he is
hmm,
my little brother.
okay.
Okay. And
Okay.
God bless you so much. And
Thank you. I think that in coming seasons, we should talk about like how do you actually have a great relationship? What do you do to
yeah.
have a great relationship? And then how do you build confidence in yourself as a woman? Because I believe that it's never too late to build
It's never,
confidence in
we
yourself.
can always all learn. Every
Yeah.
one of even us talking about it. Okay. And one thing I know is that I grow more talking to other people, because while I'm talking to other people, I'm
You're
also here
hearing your own words.
and I'm also talking to myself.
Yeah.
Okay. And and when you say things, it is easier for those things to take root. One is one thing to think about things, is another thing to say them out. They come back to you and take root in you, and it helps to improve. It's like preaching. The more you
Yeah.
preach, the more you want to study the word to know how to help other people, and the more you get better even in your own life. So don't think we are talking about these things because we think we are better, or maybe because we think we know it more than every other person. No, we are also trying to figure our own lives out, figure our relationships out. And whatever happens, whatever we say here is our opinion. Your own opinion could be different. So do you, if you're comfortable handling it in a way you think it's okay for you, or the way you know how, do you, because it's at the end of the day, it's your life. I wouldn't want anybody, any man, any woman to come to this channel and feel judged. We don't want to be judgmental because we don't like judgmental Christians. Okay. God bless you. And remember to like, to subscribe, to share
And to
this
share.
with your friends. Okay. Next time, we're going to tell our friends to start a watch party on either on YouTube or on Facebook, because this video is also going live on Facebook. Let's not say it too loudly. Okay. Izzy, God bless you. Thank you, everyone who is
All
watching, who
right.
has watched us up till this moment. God bless you. Sir Okono, thank you very much for being here with us. Thank you, sir. God bless you all. Bye.